The storylines are beginning to unfold already in this young season. Winny Brodt Brown will help us break down the surprises and the shockers from week 2. Rosemount Senior Sophie Stramel is fighting off the toughest questions yet in our PK player profile segment. And we honor and celebrate a legend of girls high school hockey as Krissy Wendell Pohl talks to us about her induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame. We're done with warm-ups. We're ready to rock and roll with Episode 3, Season 1 of the Girls High School Hockey Report podcast. It starts right now. Well, I love the fact that Krissy Wendell Pohl has agreed to come on this episode and share some of her greatest memories of playing high school hockey. She's so incredibly humble, yet her accomplishments, I would say, are historic. She's going to hate me for that introduction, but you know what? I don't care. I'm Andy Skugman. She's Winny Brodt Brown. And Winny, Krissy, and Natalie Darwitz inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto recently. They go into the hall with the likes of Jeremy Roenick. Ever in your wildest dreams, when you and Krissy were playing together and Natalie 20 years ago, did you ever think that this day would come?
It's incredible, that's for sure. And I think it's amazing and fitting that those two female icon players are going in at the same time. I think it's perfect. And you talk about, did I ever imagine it? If there was two people I'd ever pick, I would say those two, because they're probably the two best female hockey players I've ever seen in my career, and I've been around hockey for 40 years now. And those two are incredible players and very deserving, and they deserve to be with those players that you had mentioned on the men's side, because if any guy had played against them, you know, they probably have the most respect for those two women and what they've done and what they've done for the game. So I'm honored and proud for them to be my friends, and it's pretty special.
Talk to us, give us one Krissy Wendell Pohl story that nobody knows about outside of hockey that kind of really encapsulates who she is.
Well, like I was saying with Krissy and Allie, they're great people. And Krissy and I have a lot of memories. I would say we have a lot more memories off the ice with our hockey stories than on the ice, which we had some really fun times on the ice. But I'd say one thing that people probably wouldn't imagine is Krissy and I, when we're in our early 20s, had to drive out to Lake Placid, New York, to train with the U.S. national team and live out there for about a year and a half. And so it's us two with no GPS. There's no phones, right? So,
yeah. And those hills going into Lake Placid is not easy. Yeah, yeah.
No, not easy. It's a good 24 hours of two, girls going across country by themselves with hockey bags and clothes, and that's about it. And I'll never forget, it was one of the best road trips, but we're going out and we got our directions from my dad. He wrote them down, and all of a sudden, I'm driving the car, and we're going, and Krissy's like, Winnie, I think we're going the wrong direction. we're leaving from Roseville and Brooklyn Park, and we're going west.
That's not good. That's a problem.
Minutes, yeah.
That's
so we're
problem.
like, yeah, it's a problem. We're in Maple Grove, and we're supposed to be going to the East Coast. So, just with Krissy and I, we had some good times, and it's one of those things where we're hockey players. I don't know if we're the best navigators, and we probably should have flown or had someone drive us out there, but we made it. So that was a big part.
I'll ask Krissy about it later when she comes on the pod. But all right, we'll talk.
Ask her how she is with directions.
Yes, directionally challenged. Let's come to the present day and focus a little bit on girls high school hockey. Today just wrapped up week number 2. Things are starting to take shape, which is fun. Our marquee matchup that we talked about last episode, Minnetonka and Andover, the Skippers end up defeating Andover 2-0. The game lived up to its billing. It's really close all the way. Layla Hemp makes very good saves in the net for Minnetonka. But I guess, to me, the big story is Lainey Lindsay, the 8th grader from Minnetonka, scores her first varsity goal. Turns out to be the game winner. It has to be a huge goal for her. A lot of fun.
Yeah, and for Lainey, I mean, she's probably been watching her sisters, Sadie, who's at St. Thomas, and Ava, who's playing for the Gophers. So just like in that family, they're just goal scorers, and they just have a way of finding the net. And what a big, huge goal for, an eighth grader to, lift her team to the victory. And then Lauren Mack getting the open net to kind of solidify it. And I was kind of interested in that game. As far as you said, it was even with the shots being pretty even, the opportunities, and not very many penalties from, a lot of the games that we've seen the last couple of weeks. It must have been obviously two skilled teams, but I would have thought that if there's a game that would have maybe had a little bit more penalties, I would have seen it in that game, but looks like it wasn't the case.
Let's talk Dodge County. They defeat Breck 3-2 in overtime at the Dodge County Ice Arena. The story for me, though, is Breck, after a few down years, they seem to have rebuilt and are on the rise. What do you know about Breck?
Oh, absolutely. I think Trish Dunloma is doing a great job there, rebuilding and getting some really high-end young talent in there from the goaltending outwards. But then you got the Dodge County, who's, had a tradition of, Jeremy Gunderson doing a fabulous job with his group and always having a new crop of kids coming in and kind of stepping up. And you see in that game, it was 3-2, and Dodge County, it looked like had outshot them 41-26. And, scoring from three different players for Dodge County helped them kind of get past Breck for the game.
Yep, and Breck will play Orono this week, so they've got a tough schedule, but they're hanging in there, so it's good to see. Holy Family did the northern trip this past weekend. They went up, they faced War Road and Roseau. War Road, a winner over Holy Family 3-1 on Friday the 15th. Shots were 26 apiece. Game tied 1-1 after two periods. War Road scores on the power play in the third and then adds an empty netter. But I'm impressed with War Road so far this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Izzy Marvin always has his teams ready to go. And like we were saying in the last episode, Holy Family had to try to keep Jaylee French off the scoreboard. And it looks like she notched one. And then they got some young talent with Olivia Anthony coming up, and she's getting a big goal in a game against a strong Holy Family.
Let's talk Benilde. We've talked about them for 2 episodes. I'm starting to scratch my head a little bit about the Red Knights. I'm getting a little worried about them. They get shut out by Maple Grove 3-0 on Thursday. Shots were equal, 30 shots apiece. Bella Prosser, Maple Grove sophomore goalie, she's outstanding. I'm disappointed a little bit in the Red Knights because then they go and play Orono on Saturday. Orono has 11 penalties. And they tie 2-2. Benilde is 1-for-11 on their power play. So they've got to figure things out here. They just have so much talent.
Definitely, and so much talent. But it's, the good news is that it's early in the season. And Coach Gray, I'm sure he's going to get those guys going. And sometimes it's better to have your slow start at the beginning and get the team moving forward. Because I think just like Benilde and Andover, I think both those programs have a lot more to give on the offensive end. So I'm sure their coaches are working on that. But those teams that they're playing are great teams and have solid goaltending as well. And with the Maple Grove Benilde game, it looked like it was a Maisie Tomlinson, Kelsey Olsen show. So those two produced all the points, and then Prosser just did her job on keeping the puck out of the net. So yeah, I agree. Benilde, I think I know they're going to turn around, but yeah, they definitely, with all the talent, they should be scoring a lot more, especially on those power plays. Opportunities.
Maybe Benilde will do what Edina did last year, right? Edina has a slow start, ends up playing great down the stretch, winning the state title. Speaking of Edina, they get their season going. They were a little late, but 2 easy wins to get things off and running. They now, though, as we look to this week, they're at Andover tomorrow night, Edina, Andover, and Andover has only scored, correct me if I'm wrong, 1 goal in 2 games. So it's also time for Andover to what's going on there.
Right. And I think with Andover, they have such a strong back end, right? I mean, their defensive core, they're giving up hardly any goals as well with, some strong opponents. And I think maybe they just got to activate their D a little bit into their scoring because they have so much back there that maybe they just need to get the puck moving.
I mentioned this earlier. Breck now they visit Orono, a good test for Breck. Simley at South St. Paul. Great rivalry. Say that one time.
Yeah, that's always
slow.
A fun one. Those for years, that's been that's a good rivalry that's been going on between those teams. So that's always a fun matchup to watch.
Centennial Spring Lake Park at Minnetonka. The Cougars are 3-0 with wins at Maple Grove, Rosemount, and Stillwater. This will be a great test for Centennial Spring Lake Park at Minnetonka.
Absolutely, and you've got it's the battle of the North. You got a lot of high-end players on both teams that are have been playing against each other all the way up. So it'll be fun to see them battle it out.
Last
and
one.
I'll be at that game.
You'll be at that game? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then
I'm excited to watch that one.
Good. And then you're also at the Saturday, the last one I want to preview.
That's the Saturday.
Saturday.
Centennial Champlain. Yeah,
yep.
Sorry, that's the one I was referring to.
Okay, Champlain Park.
So, yeah, because they were nice enough to ask me Centennial to drop the puck. So I get to do that and watch the good battle. And it's kind of neat because my best friend, Megan Milbert Trapiccio, is the assistant coach for Champlain Park. So we played at the U of M together. So, and we used to be rivalries because I was at Roseville and she was South St. Paul. So I always tell girls that I've coached, I'm like, you know what? Some of your enemies become your best friends one day. So
that is true.
That's pretty neat.
Yep. And so to be clear on that, I just want to clarify Saturday night, Champlain Park, Coon Rapids at Centennial Spring Lake Park. Winnie will be dropping.
That's the game.
Winnie will be dropping the puck. And I just want to say one more thing. I watched Hill Murray beat Centennial Spring Lake. I'm sorry, Champlain Park, Coon Rapids.
Champlain,
yep, on Saturday, 8-2. They did not have Coon Rapids. Did not have their top goalie, and they did lose 8-2. But I'm going to tell you this: I think June Semling, Lily McKenzie, and Sid Bernovic, the first line for the Bluebirds, that I would say that's one of the best lines in the state.
Number lines in the state,
Yep.
Absolutely, the most. Yeah, and they've been playing with each other for so long; it makes total sense, and that's where Coach Trapiccio and I were talking, and I'm excited to see that line in action on Saturday.
Sounds good. I have fun on Saturday night. Thanks for the time. We'll talk next week.
Thank you. All right.
Well, speaking of first liners, it's time to bring Rosemount Sophie Stramel into the conversation. She is the subject of our PK player profile segment. Soph, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I think I've said this to you at one point, but I have watched you play since I would bet you were 10 years old. And in that time, I don't think you've lost a face-off. But first question, what do you
I definitely have.
You think so? Well, let me ask you this. What do you think your percentage of face-off wins is in your career? And how did you get good at it? Because you really, truly are good. What do you think it is?
I have no idea. I'd hope it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty strong part of my game, but I've definitely lost a handful. But I'd hope it's over 50 or 60%. I'd say maybe.
I bet it's closer to 80 or 90 for sure. And I'm telling, I know that the Mankato coaches, I'm sure they love your face-offs. They also, I bet, know that you are, I would say, one of the smartest players out there. I've watched you run power plays, and I tell people all the time, give me Sophie Stramel. She'll run the power play, and we'll score lots of goals and we'll win games. But you're headed to Mankato, Minnesota State next year, recruiting class of, I would say, some of the top Minnesota 2025 grads. You've got Mercury Bischoff, Grand Rapids, Kendall Hassler, Benilde, Michaela Moran from Apple Valley, Zoe Lopez from Orono. How excited are you about Mankato and the future of the Mavericks?
I'm so excited. I knew right when I got on campus that I loved it there. And once all those commits started rolling into, I knew that they're building for something big in the future and to make a dent in the WCHA. So I think I'm super excited for the future. And yeah.
Well, before you go to Mankato, don't forget about your senior season. You made it to the state tournament with Rosemount. Really nice run through sections last season, including a very good win in the semis over Lakeville North. Not off to a great start this season, but what do you guys need to do to to get things going in the right direction, and probably beat Michaela Moran and Apple Valley in the sections.
Right.
What has to be done?
I think, well, something that we focus on every season is building for February. Our coaches can't stress it enough that we'll sacrifice wins in November and December so that we can be playing our best hockey when it comes to February.
What do you need to do? What are you focusing on yourself in your senior season? What are you trying to improve?
I think just keeping my leadership up and like keeping a positive attitude and keep being the person that I am and bringing others up with me, because I know if like I'm working hard, then that'll reflect on the other girls too, to get in the mindset of working hard and scoring some goals and getting some wins.
Are you ready for the PK player profile?
Yes, I am.
50 seconds to answer 5 killer questions. Here we go. Question 1. What sport other than hockey do you wish you would have spent more time at as a kid, and why?
Soccer, because my mom coached it, and that's the sport that I played growing up.
Yeah, and she was a very good soccer coach too, state champion. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be something in the psychology major, like maybe a therapist, just helping people out with their lives. So, yeah.
In your entire hockey career, what one defeat still bugs you to this day, and why?
Honestly, the Dangle League championship game still bothers me a little bit because we were like undefeated the whole way. That's one that I can think of right now, but yeah.
Who is the one player you'd want as a teammate for the rest of your playing days, and why?
Lorelai Nelson. She's been my teammate since day one, and yeah, I wish I could play with her forever.
Are you a cat person or a dog lover?
Dog lover all the way.
Perfect answer. So thank you so much for the time. Thanks for coming on, and good luck this season.
Thank you so much for having me.
To my mom and dad, when I begged you to play hockey at 5 years old, you signed me up with no dreams of me playing college hockey or playing in the Olympics. It was never about how good I could be or getting a college scholarship. Because when I started playing, there were no girls' teams to play on, no college scholarship to get, and no women's hockey in the Olympics. It was about letting me play a game that gave me so much joy and put a smile on my face every day. You had to listen to other parents when they questioned why you let your little girl play hockey, because it wasn't cool and hockey wasn't for girls. But it didn't matter how I played, if I scored. You just cared that I was happy, and you always showed up. Thank you.
Well, if you don't recognize that voice, I know you'll recognize the name. That's Krissy Wendell Pohl, an awesome excerpt from her recent Hall of Fame induction speech. And Krissy, the message you delivered to your mom and dad was so cool, but I think what was even better was the reaction on your mom's face when you were speaking. She could not have been prouder of you, and I'm sure truly amazed at the fact that you were there going into the Hall of Fame. And when you think back about being a little girl in Brooklyn Park, how many times when you were in Toronto did you have to pinch yourself and say, where am I and how did I get here?
Yeah. It's crazy because, like you said, you mentioned my mom, and for mom who like never grew up around sports, didn't know anything about sports until she met my dad, whose life was all sports. She would have never guessed. She'll tell you when her little girl was born, she thought she's going to have this little singer piano player, and she could not have been more off. But so to see her be able to smile and enjoy something that if you would have told her 50 years ago, this is what it would be, she'd be like, what is that? What's in Toronto? What's hockey? But really, I think it was really cool for me just to be able to publicly thank my parents. I know I thank them a lot, and they are in the background a lot. They're not the loudest parents, and they've never been, they're involved in my sports, but they've kind of always taken a background and just kind of showed up and been where I need to be. So it's fun for them to get acknowledged. And I know that they were incredibly excited just to be there and spend time together as a family. And they always were proud they are of me as a person. They never really even talked about anything I accomplished in the sport. So it was great to see them. I know you see it when the light's up there, you can see your parents, but when you get to see it back and see their reaction, truly, it meant a lot to them. It's really, really thankful that they could be there.
Yeah. I bet all the women from your era played with the boys when you were kids. You mentioned in your Hall of Fame speech that your mom didn't care what people thought of her daughter playing with boys. Was it difficult? Did the boys accept you? And I do know that you had a brother that was a bit of a protector. So how did that all play out?
Yeah, I think I was naive to a lot of it. To be honest, I think part of it was just the protection of like my brother or my parents or whatever they did behind the scenes. I know my dad told me stories about his buddies who were like, hey, if you want her to quit playing, just like freeze her feet or do something to get out of the sport. And he never did. I always thanked him. He's like, I'm like, did you think about it? Like, no. I'm like, did you? He's like, no. But yeah, they just, to be honest, I think my mom always said that, her is really important to her. And she would always just say, listen, like whatever it is my kids want to do, I just want them to be happy. And she said, I try to get you into other things and things that maybe were what I thought you'd be more interested in. And she's like, you just kept going back to hockey. And she said, if I ever tried to maybe put you in a dress and try to get you to play piano, it wasn't there. And I think, as parents, we all just want our kids to be happy. And when you see the happiness that I had and what it gave me, I think it was pretty cool. Like I said, there wasn't opportunity or anywhere to go with it, but they continued to let me play. And my brother was 2 years older, and he was a good little hockey player himself. And big. So I think there was probably a natural protection there. Kids probably feared him, and if he wasn't willing to include me and have me around, I think certainly that helped a lot. But really, the guys I grew up with they genuinely were really good guys. We had a blast playing together, and when I did switch to girls' high school my junior year, it was kind of a sad day. I was excited to switch and excited for a new opportunity, but it was kind of like an end of a chapter for me because I had grown up with those guys for so long, and they really were my teammates, and it was fun for them. They would always come support the girls' games. I'd be able to go and watch them. But really, I think I just was really fortunate that it's probably why I love to play too. Like the people I were around were just good people, good families, good kids, and it was really quite an enjoyable experience.
You played 2 seasons of girls high school hockey for Park Center, and for the lack of a better term, your output was literally off the rails. You scored 109 goals and 149 points you collected in 1998 and 99, and you scored 110 and had 165 points in 1999 and 2000. The obvious question is, what the hell happened in that first year? Why only 109? You couldn't get another one? I mean, what the heck? I mean, did you hit a post here or there? What happened? What do you remember from those years?
Yeah, it's funny when you say those numbers because they do kind of sound outrageous now. And you're kind of like, what were you thinking? Mm-hmm. Was I not passing the puck or what was going on? I'd like to see some of those videos now as an adult. I'm like, what was going on? Yeah, it's funny because I never went in when I switched to boys to girls. I had really no idea what to expect. Like I knew that obviously the level play wasn't what I was be used to, but you just don't know how you're going to adjust or what that looks like. But I didn't have any goals of like, this is what I want to do or this is what I want to get. I just was trying to enjoy the high school experience of, playing and competing. And, once we got to the state tournament, just the smell of the Coliseum and just the bus rides. I mean, there were so many other things that went into it, just being in the high school team. But yeah, it's pretty ridiculous when you say those back because it does seem like
crazy.
A little, it is crazy. Yeah. It is crazy.
Yeah. So 2-time Metro Player of the Year, Miss Hockey Award winner, 2-time NCAA champion, Patty Kazmaier Award winner, WCHA Player of the Year. Do you want me to stop now or what? I can keep going. Captain of the 2006 Olympic team. I seriously, that's just a snapshot. What's your, there's girls out there now that they hope they could just accomplish a fraction of what you've done. What's your advice to them?
Honestly, I know it sounds weird, but you got to enjoy it. I think you got to have fun. And I don't think that for me, I never got into it for any of the awards. I never got into it to try and be a captain or try to do score as many points as I could. I just loved to be on the ice. I loved to be at the outdoor rink. I loved to just play and compete. And I think when you start worrying about the other things of trying to make those accomplishments, then they become expectations for yourself and you feel like you're never living up to them. But for me, it was never about that. It was literally about just doing the best I can, trying to win, trying to help my team play. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but I really didn't focus on stats or numbers or awards. To be honest, even this past weekend, even having that attention I'm a pretty extrovert, an outgoing kid, but when it comes to attention, it's not my specialty to go up and give a speech or be acknowledged. it really is just about the love of the game. So if I had any advice, it's always, you got to enjoy what you do. You got to love what you do. And when it stops becoming enjoyable, maybe you need to take a break.
Greatest memory from high school, what is it?
From hockey standpoint, honestly, this sounds so weird, but like, I just remember like walking in. So the girls hockey tournament used to be at the Coliseum, which was so awesome. We had such great crowds both years. And like, you walk in and had like this certain smell to it. I just remember like walking around with my team and doing like, we had like these Walkmans. That's how old I am. Like you had these little Walkmans, you make like a little clear tape and you put them in. I just remember like walking with my team. We had these like matching fleece with our numbers. We thought we were so cool. And just being at the rink, the state tournament, you hear the bands playing ahead, and just that excitement of the anticipation of like your school's going to come watch, you're playing in the state tournament, you just got off a bus. You don't have too many worries at all because you're in high school. But that for me is kind of an image I just kind of have ingrained in my head, is just being at the state tournament and being in the Coliseum.
All right, I'm going to take you back one more time before we put you on the PK player profile segment. So Winnie told a story earlier in this episode about you two driving to Lake Placid, but you were a bit directionally challenged, it sounds like. So remember, New York, Lake Placid is east. How did that trip start?
There's so many layers to the story. First of all, whoever trusted me and Winnie to get in a car and go anywhere, it was dangerous.
I'm going to talk to your mother.
I mean, this was like, this is like pre-cell phone, like any kind of like, if you get off map, like you're in trouble. And I don't know what we were thinking, but I do remember we packed up Winnie's car in Rosemount. We were at her parents' house and we packed it all up. Jack Brodt printed off this like map quest. So I was like, I'm supposed to like print out, like follow these directions. And I was like, get on 694. So it's like, okay, we'll get on 694. Well, we went on 694 and went west. And then all of a sudden that like being from Brooklyn Park, I'm like, we're in Maple Grove. I'm like, I think we're going the wrong direction. Like, I think I like literally had to call my dad and be like, are we going the wrong direction? We're in Maple Grove. I don't even remember all of it. But yeah, and then that was also when Winnie, there's so many stories to this, but we did get to New York. We did make it. Unbelievable. Yes. I think we got to about Wisconsin when we stopped to get gas, and Winnie decided that she was going to she's like, oh, you want a snack or something? I think she was like, yeah, can you just give me some like peanut M&Ms or something? I'm like, sure. So get some peanut M&Ms. Literally like 20 minutes later, I see her hearing like this, like this awful noise. Like she's trying to itch her ears. And I'm like, you good? She's like, yeah, I'm allergic to peanuts, I think. And so like literally for the next 20 minutes for the ride, I'm like, but didn't you ask me to get you peanut M&Ms? Yes, we got a flat tire and a car wash. I mean, it was a long ride, but we did make it out to New York. But yes, I don't know what we were thinking.
That's
crazy. Good story.
All right, so 50 seconds. Here's the scenario. So PK player profile, Sophie Stramel from Rosemount was the current player to be on the PK. You are the past player this episode. I gotta make sure you do this, though. 50 seconds to answer 5 killer questions. If you answer all 5 questions in the time allotted, you successfully kill off the PK. Are you ready?
Boy. Okay, not much of a PKer, but let's go for it.
Exactly. All right, here you go. Number 1, which teammate over the years stands out as the least likely to pick up pucks after practice, and did anyone ever call her out?
Oh, God, that's hard. Gosh, I don't even know. Probably me.
There it is.
I'll just say me.
All right. Starbucks or Caribou?
Starbucks.
Who is the toughest person you played against, and what made her so challenging?
Natalie Darwitz, and she was so fast and so competitive, and she just was relentless.
Canes or Chick-fil-A?
Canes.
Last question, number 5. Who is a better hockey player and why? Former Mr. Hockey and Golden Gopher John Pohl, or former Miss Hockey and Golden Gopher Krissy Wendell Pohl?
That's unanimous. It's got to be me. Unanimous. In our household, it's unanimous. The girls always win.
For sure. And no doubt, if I post it this way, who is the player least likely to go into a corner and get the puck? John Pohl or Krissy Wendell Pohl? What's the answer?
Oh, John. He doesn't know what the corners of the rink are.
Exactly.
Yes. That's an easy answer. He might have been the guy that didn't pick up pucks. We didn't play on the same team, but maybe he was the guy.
That's the guy. Krissy, thank you so much for the time. Thanks for playing, and congratulations again for your induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Always good talking to you.
And that is a wrap on Episode 3, Season 1 of the Girls High School Hockey Report podcast, which is written by yours truly and produced and edited by Cy Dotson of Triumph Pictures. Check out what he does by going to his website, triumphpictures.com. Thanks for listening. Please share this podcast with all your friends, family, and fellow fans. We'll talk to you next week, and maybe I'll see you around a rink real soon.